So, do you live paycheck to paycheck? If you're like most Americans, you do. Do you live on credit? If you're like most Americans, you do. So is it a problem? Or is it something that makes us, better able to handle our money? Let's take a look. Tap the like button. Hi, I'm James Callahan, and this is the Do-Over Show. And a significant part of our do-over, any do-over, when things don't go our way and we have to change direction in life, finances, profession, whatever it is to learn how to make up for lost time, do what we can to correct problems and get ourselves on the right track. That's what a good do-over does. But one of the most difficult things to handle is when we dig a hole so deep that we can never get out of it. And that usually comes with credit. Yes, credit cards. Let's take a deep look at this. Let's look at the psychology of it. Now, I'll give you some of the numbers, but you got to admit, at the heart of it is not the numbers of how long it takes to pay things off and how many credit cards you have, but it's what credit cards make us feel and what we're supposed to do about that. All right, so more than 6 out of 10, almost 7 out of 10 Americans today live paycheck to paycheck. That is, by the time their next paycheck's running around, they have nothing, they have zero in their account, not because they have zero balance budgeting. Zero balance budgeting is when you get paid, you tell all your money where to go so that effectively all your money is accounted for. It doesn't mean spent, it means accounted for. And it's a common budgeting hack, and everybody in the budgeting space uses it. Just so you don't have any just money sitting there, because when you have money sitting there, it tends like water to seek its own level, and that is money wants to spend itself, and you want to spend your money because it makes you feel good, right? Yeah, it makes me feel good too. I get it. So what we do with that is that we run out of money. Now, here's the thing. You think if I made more money, I wouldn't live paycheck to paycheck, would I? You make $100,000, 50% of you live paycheck to paycheck. Well, what about $250,000? 1 out of 3 people making $250,000 still live paycheck to paycheck. Why is that? People call it lifestyle creep. You get more money, you increase your lifestyle. Oh, I got a raise, and you increase your lifestyle. Now, the alternative to that, of course, is the 50-51 rule, and that is if you make 50, you don't spend 51. That is, you live on less than you make. Great. But where does credit come into this? All right, let's dig into this, how credit works in our life and what the real numbers are. Now, when you turn 18, just about every American 18-year-old, when they turn 18, they start getting something in the mail, advertisements, emails in their inbox, and that is advertisements or opportunities to take out a credit card. 1, 2, 3, multiple credit cards. They're 18. They're asking people if they want fries with that. They're usually not making any money. They're part-time money. If you do work full-time, usually living in mom's basement. So why do you get credit card offers? Well, it may be the culture that they're trying to get you hooked, but Americans live on credit, not on savings. I get it. The credit means that we can live a lifestyle that's higher or richer than the lifestyle we're actually generating through our income. That is, we're banking on the future. Why would you give an 18-year-old a credit card? Because their earnings throughout their life are going to increase. No matter what they do, even if they don't go to college or university, they're going to make more money at 20 than they had at 18, more money at 25 than they were 20. Okay, credit card companies know that. The average amount of money, not just because of inflation and wage increases, but the average person tends to make more the longer they work for about the first 20 years of their life. Then it reaches a saturation point, and then it's divided into 2 groups. We'll get to that. But in the field of credit, you're given a credit card so that you become accustomed to, comfortable with living with a credit card. Do I want guac along with my burrito bowl at Chipotle? Let's see, how much is guac? That much? That's okay. I have a credit card. And you put your guac on a credit card. So how does a credit card work? Well, it's based on your potential to repay over time. How long? Not next week, not next month, not even next year. Credit card companies bank on this 5, 10, 15 years out to pay off debt that we would put on our credit cards today. Okay, so a credit card repayment, let's look at that. It's typically 1% of the balance plus the interest. Now there's a minimum to that, so if you have $20 on your credit card, they're going to ask for $20 plus the interest on that when you pay off your credit card bill. That's great. Now, but if you don't, let's say you have $5,000 in credit with a 20% APR. Your minimum payment would be about $133 per month, and it would take you 277 months to pay off $5,000 at 20% interest. And over that time, For your $5,000 of credit that you took out, you're going to pay $7,223.49 in interest on top of the $5,000. So you're at $12,723.49 for that $5,000 credit card debt. You go to $10,000 with a 20% APR, that would be $266.67 per month. It would take 346 months to pay off $10,000 at 20% interest. And you'd end up paying $16,056.59 in interest over that period of time. Okay, let's stop here and do the math. But it's going to take you 277 months to pay that off. You see, that's what credit card companies are counting on, because they're making money on you, not paying it off tomorrow or next month or next year, but over 10 or 20 or 23 years. 277 months is 23 years. Add that to how old you are right now, and with just $5,000 on your credit card, paying the minimum balance, that's how long you're going to be paying it off. And that means no more credit. That's the kicker. You can't add more credit to that. Oh, wait a minute. We do, don't we? We do. We get a second or a third credit card. Why do we get a second or a third credit card? Well, probably because we maxed out the first one, or we get those transfer your balance from one card to another, and we play the game of hopscotch back and forth between accounts, and we take advantage of the 6, 9, 12 months of no interest on that. But do we really take advantage of it? The average person that transfers a balance from one credit card to another with a zero balance transfer does not pay down that debt. They simply delay the repayment. And then it kicks in with the new credit card company, and they repay at another rate. Yes, it just means that you've moved credit from one card to a second card or a third card. If you do the 10 years, let's get serious about this. 10 years at 1% minimum let's get really serious about this. $10,000. $10,000 repayment with a 20% APR is 346 months. Divide that by 12. It's going to take you more than 28 years to pay off $10,000 in credit card debt just paying the minimum payment. Okay, let's go to the extreme. $25,000 at a 20% APR, pay the minimum at $666 a month. That number scare you? It scares me. It should scare you. And that would take 437 months. Okay, wait a minute. 437 divided by 12 is more than 36 years to pay off $25,000 in credit card debt. Not only are you going to pay off the $25,000, but you're going to pay $41,000 in interest. So let's add that up together. $25,000 plus $41,056 for $25,000 in credit card debt. You're going to end up repaying $66,000 at 1% repayment, the minimum payment, and it's going to take you decades. Okay, if those numbers don't scare you, it's probably because you're living on credit. And you say, hey, Dr. Callahan, I have no choice. Give me a remedy to this. Okay, the first remedy is live on less than you make. That means not letting lifestyle creep hit you so that the more you make, and that means maybe getting another job. I work part-time jobs on the side in order to make money, not just to pay off credit card debt. I've already done that. But to invest. I've done a video on the difference between saving and investing. And you can take a look at that video here. But it's an important move. That is, you got to do whatever you can to get yourself out of debt, or you're going to just end up living a lifetime, almost 4 decades, paying off $25,000 in debt. Ouch. Okay, so you're going to make more money. You're going to put that against the principal. Yes, there are theories about this, but what is on your credit card debt? So if you actually look at what you've charged for your credit card debt, are you charging meals, coffee, lunch? Are you charging things like, I had a flat tire, I had to repair it, or I had an alternator go out, I had to repair that, or the furnace was broken and I needed to repair that? If those are the kind of things, the house repairs, car repairs, emergency things that are on your credit, then you need an emergency fund. You need to put aside money because those things happen, things break, and you're going to have to pay for them. And that's the first easiest bit of advice, and that is you need to put aside that money so that you actually have some money there so that you don't go into even more debt when the next thing breaks. But guess what? It's going to break, so get ready. Now, very few of us who ever carried credit card debt had, spontaneous trips to Disney World on our credit. That is, we don't. We usually die the death of 1,000 cuts. And that is, credit cards are a convenience. And that gets to the psychology of it, because we think we deserve or we should deserve those things. Or we're jealous. We see other people around us living that way, and we say we should be able to live that way too. So that's basically, it comes down to the question of, why do you have so many credit cards? 4 or 5. That's what the average midlife American carries. 4 or 5 credit cards. Why? Because we use them as a buffer and we are cashing in our future for today. But here it gets to the psychology. Now, what are we going to do about it? Now, you don't have to blame Dave Ramsey, although there are a lot of Dave Ramseys out there that say credit is our biggest problem. It's an addiction. And because it's treated like an addiction, Dave Ramsey and others say that you carry no credit cards, you don't live on credit, don't worry about your credit score. That's like being in a recovery program. You are a recovering credit debtor person. You're recovering. You're always in recovery. You're never an X, alcoholic, Narcotics Anonymous, NA, all that. It's a zero tolerance policy. You see, someone who is an addict doesn't say, well, I'm going to cut back, because they never really cut back. You're an addict. You just don't stop. It's not like, does one drink happen? Many drinks happen, and you don't stop. The same thing happens in credit. So why do people advise cutting up your credit cards and just getting beyond living in credit, cutting off that avenue? It's because it's like a recovery program, and you are probably more like an addict than you're comfortable admitting. So that's part of why. But there's something else that happens, and that is our brains. The chemicals in our brains start to go poo, poo, poo when we buy ourselves things. When we put the card in and we see the little message pop up, approved. If you've ever lived on credit, towards the margins, wondering if you have enough on a card, and you put that card in and you're waiting at the cashier counter and you want to know, is this going to be declined or approved? That feeling that you have when that little word approved comes up, it's like, you get a rush in your brain of all those chemicals, and it becomes a form of addiction. So one of the first things that recovery programs lead us to, make us do, help us figure out, is that usually it takes something to break in our lives. It takes something horrible, bankruptcy, people leaving us, losing a job because we get into debt. And by the way, there are certain jobs you cannot have if you're in debt. Yeah, because you're too susceptible to the influence of others' money, bribery. You're never going to get a job working in law enforcement, for example. You're never going to get a job working in accounting or finance if you're living constantly in debt, crippling debt. So what are the alternatives? Well, the first, like any recovery program, is to admit, okay, I got a problem. Now I need a course of action. What are you going to do? And over that course of action, one of the things that will become readily apparent is that you will be embarrassed. When I went into debt, credit card was a problem in my life. The first feeling I had was embarrassment. Embarrassment with my family. I didn't want to share the information, and I didn't want to have to say, no, we don't have the money for that. Now, I know. I grew up in a family where we just spent and worried about it later. That was part of what I had to overcome. That was part of my money story. What's your money story? How's your relationship with credit? Are you an addict? Or are you able to have that one dabble and pay it off? Yes, credit can be a great tool, but the question is, when does the tool start to use us? Hey, and thanks for being part of the Do-Over Show. Please, could you tap the like button? And while you're down there, how about you subscribe? And ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. I'm so glad you found me, and I found you. Thanks.